What's up? This is your sleuthing soul, and I help relatives and sisters and brothers from other mothers discover their familial roots and learn more about themselves and myself in the process. A few days ago, I was taking a stroll down these internet streets and landed on the Book of Faces. There was a post on my feed that caught my eye from a woman who was determined to solidify a connection with one of her DNA matches. It reads, "Do you think we look alike?" I tried to message her and she would read my messages but no reply. To be honest, I think my dad may have had a child on my mother, and the fact she looks a lot like my dad and won't reply makes it more suspect. And some back info. My parents were 39, mom, and 43, dad, when I was born. I'm now 37, so it's very possible she could be my dad's child because she doesn't look old enough to be a sibling. My dad passed away when I was a teen, and my mother got in her feelings when I showed her, talking about she doesn't want any problems. On the original screenshot, there's an image of the original poster. I'll refer to her as OP, side by side with her DNA match, who appears to be older than her, both wearing glasses with beautiful smiles and potentially bear a resemblance to each other. The predicted relationship to OP is aunt or half sister, with them sharing 24% DNA with 1,665 CMs or Centimorgans across 33 segments. Based on the screenshot, it appears that these two tested on Ancestry.com. For those of you who are new to discovering and understanding DNA matches, per Family Search's website, a centimorgan is a unit of genetic measurement that shows how much DNA you share with your relatives. I'll put a link to that entry from Family Search in the video's description. Sometimes the platform on which people test will give you a predictive relationship based on the centimorgan amount, but it is not limited to those specific relationships that are listed. There may be a hyperlink that you can select to get other possible, emphasis on possible, relationships, or you can use another source like DNA Painter. On the DNA Painter website, once you select the Tools menu option, there is a Shared CM project tool that one can use to show potential relationships based on the centimorgan shared. Once you go to the tool, you can enter the total number of CMs in the box. So if we enter the CMs in the example we have, which is 1,665, it returns the relationship probabilities. So we see there's a 100% chance that it's a grandparent to grandchild relationship, an aunt/uncle to niece/nephew relationship, or a half-sibling relationship. It's unlikely that it will be a full sibling relationship based on the note at the bottom. If you have your own personal example, this DNA Painter tool is a great way to identify possible relationships and narrow down the likelihood from there. In this example, while 1,665 centimorgans could be grandparent to grandchild, it's not as likely if you were to see the women side by side. Another way to tell is to look at the list of shared DNA matches that the two people have in common. It's possible those mutual matches may be on your maternal side, paternal side, or in some cases, both. Some commenters began to weigh in on OP's post. One person, I'll refer to as person A, said, "Give that person time to process your message. 24% is definitely very close relative and exactly good for half sister." OP replied that she messaged her match in December 2024, which was almost a year and a half from the time of the release of this video, then again in March of this year. She definitely does not want to talk. Person A follows up with, "Sad to say, that is her right." Another commenter, we'll call person B, says you have reached out to her. She needs to decide whether to respond. If she doesn't, you have to respect her reasons, even if you don't know them. To which OP replies, "But it's not my fault if my father chose to step out and had a child. That's crazy to hold that against someone and quite bitter, especially seeing that she's much older than me. And it's crazy to take a DNA test to find out answers, but then when answers are found, not face them." Well, this is taking quite a turn. The next commenter says, "You're assuming she's bitter and intentionally refusing to talk to you because she's holding it against you. Maybe she doesn't want anything to do with it." Maybe she's trying to process the same emotions you are. She just isn't processing them the way you would. Give her time. If she doesn't want to talk, you have to respect that. It's not her responsibility to fill in the blanks your father left behind. Expecting her to do so when she is probably just as clueless as you are makes you seem bitter as well. I think seeking out a therapist to process those emotions would be a good place to start. Now, I believe that this particular poster, we'll call them poster C. I think we said poster C. I think that they had the best intentions, but I have a feeling, just a little spidey senses, that this is going to go even further left. OP responds, I don't care that much either way. I have my dad. I just wanted to learn more about my family in general. I don't need therapy to process anything. Back to comment B. There's somebody in the comments who responds to comment B instead of the OP, and I think that was a mistake, but she tells commenter B that she's dense. And I don't know, things start to go even further left, because that person who alleges that the commenter, not OP, is dense, actually snuck off into the DMs and again misattributing their message to the OP. Another person provides perspective and says some people are just testing for genetics or to see if they have any distant relatives. Nobody owes you a response, and it's low-key entitled that they feel that way. Your own mother, quote, got in her feelings about it. So you not think an illegitimate secret child would also not feel a certain way if her father wasn't in her life, but another family got to experience it? Just leave that lady alone. To which OP responds again. You can disrespectfully shut up. Don't take a test that can open up a can of worms you aren't ready for. My dad not being around for her has absolutely nothing to do with me, especially if her mother knew he was a married man. If you want to go there, we can. Homewreckers who have outside children do those children a disservice. That's her problem, not mine. So at this point, I'm going to agree with this poster who responded to her. There's definitely a level of entitlement and a lot of assumptions about the nature of why the possible sister, or definitely the close relative, took a test. And that's one of the things to keep in mind when you are doing family research or when you're doing the DNA testing, is that people do have different motives. Some people might want to connect with relatives. Other people might want to know whether or not they're truly descended from an Incan warrior, maybe whether or not they are African royalty, or to try to find out whether or not you're Native American. Because grandma's grandma wore her jet black wavy hair pulled back into a bun, and family lore suggests that she descended from Pocahontas. Whatever the case may be, understand that not everyone will share your same intentions for research, even if they are a close relative. When I started out on my family history journey, a lot of work that I did was not easily searchable online. So I had to either go to the state archives website to pull information and pour through handwritten or typewritten documents that weren't easily searchable, or I had to drive to the library or the state archives and pour through books that were 100 plus years old that were barely being held together in order to find this information. Once I found the information, I would add them to my tree. I started out on Family Search because I figured if it's free, it's for me. So that's where I was. But eventually I transitioned over to Ancestry, and my tree was public at the time. I had a cousin who was copying information from my tree, and I know that they got it from me because it wasn't anywhere else online. And so I reached out to him in good faith, thinking that, maybe two minds are better than one. Maybe we can collab and connect. I sent him a message. I saw that he read it, and I saw that he was still copying stuff from my tree, and I admittedly was feeling some kind of way about it. So from that point on, I decided that unlike Silk Sonic, I'm not going to leave the door open and lock down my tree. After getting out of my feelings about it, I had to take a step back and realize that, people do have different motives for researching, no matter how close the relationship is. Another commenter says, sadly, your mother's statement tells you what you already know. You'll have to do your own investigation because your mother ain't going to talk. Best of luck. You can tell in the comments that people were saying that, that's your half sister, you all share the same features, you look alike, nose, eyebrows, need for glasses. That's a way to put it. Another person who brings up a good point says, I would never post any identifying information about my matches without their permission, especially if I was trying to establish a relationship with them. The DNA already told you everything that you need to know about the relationship. You didn't need the opinion of us strangers about your resemblance to her. The back info about your parents was unnecessary too. And this other person says that they would be upset too because they're a private person. That is one of the challenges with testing on certain platforms. If you put your name, if you put your picture out there, some people will say, well, it's public. I can go ahead and post it on a public platform. I think with something as delicate as DNA and family research, especially because of the surprises that can come from somebody doing their DNA test, that is probably just in the best of interest of everybody involved, especially if you're reaching out to people to try to connect or try to foster a relationship, is being a little delicate and being mindful and sensitive to that, because again, you don't know what other people's experiences are. You don't know how they're going to receive the information. And just a tip for people who don't know, if you see certain posts, I'll refer to Facebook in this case. If you see posts on Facebook that have the globe beside the date and the timestamp, that means that your post is visible worldwide, compared to maybe the person icon where it's limited to an audience amongst your friends or so on. Unfortunately, there are some people who have their own self-serving interests, as maybe or not, I'm just going to say it, yeah, as the case is with OP. But if you really want to get mileage and you want to build a relationship, and trust is one of the foundations of said relationships, it's probably not best to put that person all over social media. And if that person happens to see this message, they're probably going to be less inclined to want to connect with you, especially after some of the knee-jerk responses that OP made regarding the possible nature of her possible sister's relationship with OP's father. One of the other things that I would say is it's important to keep your wits about you and understand that this is an emotional journey and that not everybody has the same goal that you have when you take the DNA test or when you embark on the family history journey. So I would suggest proceeding with civility, kindness, and ultimately respect, with a brief introduction and a little background as to why you're reaching out. Even if maybe it isn't to cultivate a relationship, but rather to get vital information. Help them, help you. Let me know you've made it to this point of the video by leaving the hashtag Centimorgans in the comment section below and share your thoughts. Do you agree with the tips I gave for people embarking on their journey of connecting with DNA matches? If not, what would you suggest? Based on the amount of DNA they share, what's your educated guess on the degree of relationship between OP and the unsuspecting woman? For any questions related to your family history search, email me at sleuthingsoul@gmail.com, or feel free to send comments or suggestions on any relevant trending topics to cover on the channel. Don't forget to like this video, share it, subscribe, and turn on notifications to get alerts for future uploads and updates. This is your Sleuthing Soul, signing off until the next one.